Imagine, you wake up to a world already lost. The sky, once familiar, is now a canvas of fire. The stars, once beacons of hope and wonder, are now blotted out by monstrous planet-sized warships that hang in the heavens like omens of doom. Cities that had stood for centuries lie in smoldering ruin. The oceans churn with the wreckage of battleships, their twisted metal corpses swallowed by the depths. And above it all, the voice still echoes, resonating through every speaker, every frequency, every device tuned to the sky. Kneel. It is not a request, it is not a demand, it is a statement, as if the choice had already been made for us. But this is not how the story ends. No, this is where it begins. To understand how humanity found itself standing alone against an empire that had ruled the stars for over 10,000 years, we must go back into the moment everything changed. The signal it started as a whisper in the void. For centuries, scientists had scoured the cosmos for signs of life, hoping to find something, anything that would confirm we were not alone. But when the signal came, it did not bring hope. It brought terror. The first transmission arrived not through radio waves, but as a pulse, an unfathomable distortion in the very fabric of space-time. Astronomers at the Lunar Deep Space Array were the first to detect it, but within seconds, every sensor across Earth's orbital defense grid was screaming with data spikes, their systems overwhelmed by an intelligence unlike anything ever encountered. The message was ancient. Deciphering it should have taken years. And yet, the translation came instantly, burned into the minds of those who heard it as if the words had been spoken directly into their souls. Your world has been annexed. Your species will serve, kneels or be erased. And then the stars darkened. The arrival. They did not come with greetings or emissaries. There was no diplomatic envoy, no offer of peace. The Empire did not negotiate. It conquered. On the third day after the signal, the first vessels appeared, and they were unlike anything humanity had ever imagined, ships the size of continents, their surfaces shifting with eerie organic movements, as though the metal itself was alive. No visible thrusters, no apparent propulsion system. They simply arrived, as if space itself had folded around them, spitting them into existence just beyond the moon's orbit. Global radar systems went dark. Every satellite in high orbit was instantly disabled, either by an unseen force or by sheer terror, because when the cameras captured their first clear image of the approaching fleet, the world understood what it meant to be hunted. The first attack came not as a barrage of missiles, but as silence. Within hours, the major cities of Earth, New York, Beijing, London, Moscow, Tokyo, fell eerily quiet. Communications collapsed, power grids flickered and died, civilian aircraft spiraled from the sky, their engines suffocated by some invisible force. Nuclear submarines surfaced without command, their systems wiped clean as if an unseen hand had erased them from existence. And then, the sky opened up. It began with an unnatural glow, a crimson aurora that spread across the stratosphere, as if the very fabric of reality was being torn apart. Then came the bombardment, beams of light so intense they turned entire city blocks into molten slag, glassing everything in their path. The first wave of destruction swept across Earth in less than an hour. Millions perished before they even understood what was happening. This was not war. This was extermination, the fall of Earth's defenses. The response from Earth's military was immediate, but woefully inadequate. Fighter jets scrambled from their air bases, streaking toward the massive invaders with weapons hot. Stealth bombers, long thought to be the pinnacle of military technology, launched their payloads against the colossal ships hovering above the burning cities. But their missiles never reached their targets. Instead, the moment the projectiles left the bombers, they vanished, not detonated, not intercepted, simply erased from existence, as if the very concept of their destruction had been rewritten. Naval fleets fired everything they had from the oceans. Railgun slugs, hypersonic warheads, even nuclear-tipped torpedoes. None of it mattered. The Empire's vessels hovered above the carnage, untouched, unbothered, as if swatting away an insect too insignificant to notice. Then, the ground forces arrived. Their soldiers were not biological nor mechanical. They were something in between, a fusion of organic and synthetic horror, moving with inhuman precision. Towering warforms, their bodies sculpted from blackened alloys, descended upon the remaining military strongholds. Their weapons did not fire bullets or lasers, but something far worse, something that unraveled whatever it touched. The best of Earth's warriors fell in minutes, humanity's last. Stand by the end of the first day, half of Earth's major military installations were gone. By the end of the first week, there was no military left to speak of. But humanity does not kneel. As the fires raged and the survivors fled into the ruins, something happened that the Empire had not anticipated. The nations of Earth, long divided by borders, politics, and war, found unity in their destruction. Old rivalries were forgotten. The last remnants of the world's armies gathered in the shadows, forging an alliance born not from power, but from desperation. The Galactic Empire had ruled the stars for over 10,000 years. It had wiped out species older, more advanced, and far stronger than humanity. It had never lost a war, but now it faced something new, not a superior enemy, not an overwhelming force. It faced a species with nothing left to lose, and in the dying embers of Earth's final battle, the survivors made a vow, a promise whispered between generals, engineers, and the few remaining leaders of a world in ruin. If humanity was to fall, it would not be as slaves. It would be as warriors. And somewhere, hidden beneath the ruins of a shattered Earth, a secret remained. Something the Empire had overlooked. Something humanity still possessed. Something that could change everything. They had come to conquer. They had come to erase. But they had underestimated humanity. The Galactic Empire, an ancient indomitable force that had crushed entire civilizations under its rule, had never faced resistance from a species so young, so defiant. And as the fires of war consumed Earth's cities, the last remnants of humanity prepared for the impossible, a war against a foe that had never been defeated. The war beneath the ashes, the Empire believed the battle was already won. After all, in every world they had subjugated before, once the military had been shattered, resistance crumbled. Survivors surrendered, leaders capitulated. The survivors of their wars were absorbed into the machine, either as slaves, experiments, or something far worse. But humanity was different. The moment the first fleets darkened Earth's sky, survival itself became an act of war. Those who lived through the first onslaught did not bow. They adapted. While the remains of the world's armies struggled in the open, others took the war underground. In the ruins of New York, in the tunnels beneath Moscow, in the mountains of South America and the deserts of Africa, a new kind of army was born. A force that did not fight in formations or stand in ranks, but one that moved like ghosts, striking in the night, vanishing before the enemy could respond. The Galactic Empire, for all its technological supremacy, had made one fatal mistake. They fought as conquerors. They had never fought insurgents. Earth was no longer a battlefield. It was a trap. The first strike. The first counterattack came from what remained of the old world's superpowers, a coalition of military minds, former enemies who, just weeks before, had been locked in their own endless conflicts, now found themselves united against something far greater. Their weapons had failed in open combat. Conventional warfare had been meaningless against the Empire's impossible defenses. But the scientists, the engineers, the hackers, they had been watching. They had been studying every engagement, every energy pulse, every disruption in physics itself. And then they found it, a flaw, not a weakness in the enemy's ships nor in their soldiers, but in their arrogance. The Empire did not see humans as a threat. Their defenses were designed to repel fleets, to withstand planetary sieges. They were built to annihilate civilizations capable of interstellar war. But humanity had never fought in space. Earth's resistance didn't need to break through planetary shields or take down battleships. They needed something smaller, something smarter. They needed a weapon the Empire couldn't see coming. The first test came in what was left of Tokyo. A small strike team, just a handful of survivors armed with scavenged tech, planted an experimental device at the foot of one of the Empire's warforms. The machine, a towering amalgamation of synthetic muscle and shifting alloys, moved through the city with unstoppable force, wiping out any remaining pockets of human life. It had walked through bullets, missiles, even direct artillery strikes. But the device? It didn't explode, it didn't burn. It corrupted. The warform took another step and then stopped. A ripple of blue static flickered across its armored plating. Its movements became erratic, its glowing core pulsing like a dying star. And then, without warning, it collapsed, convulsing, its very form unraveling as though its own technology was rejecting itself. A virus, not one of code but of physics itself. A weapon forged from the very same quantum anomalies that the Empire used to rewrite reality. And it was only the beginning. A war in the shadows from the depths of hidden bunkers and shattered cities. Humanity launched its second phase of war, sabotage. Drones built from the remains of fallen military hardware, adapted with scavenged alien tech, began slipping through the cracks in the Empire's dominion. They carried no bombs, no conventional weapons. Instead, they carried disruption fields, pulses of energy designed to turn the enemy's own advanced systems against them. One by one, Empire patrols started faltering. Gunships, once impervious to all earthly weapons, began stuttering mid-flight, crashing into the ruins below as their propulsion systems failed. Warforms collapsed into twitching husks, their intricate neural matrices scrambled beyond repair. The Empire had never needed redundancy. Their technology was absolute. Their science was the pinnacle of the known universe. But that was the problem. Humanity didn't fight with science alone. It fought with ingenuity. And against all odds, it worked. The Empire strikes back. The moment the first major warship fell, the Empire realized its mistake. Humanity was not just surviving. It was adapting, learning, and worst of all, then it was fighting as if it had nothing left to lose. So the Empire changed tactics. If the insurgency could not be crushed with brute force, then Earth itself would pay the price. The skies above turned into a harvest. Entire cities were lifted from the ground in massive gravitational fields, pulled into orbit and disassembled piece by piece, not for resources, but to erase any chance of resistance. The great oceans began to shrink. Water itself was being extracted, siphoned into colossal dreadnoughts to be stored or repurposed elsewhere in the Empire's endless expansion. Entire biomes, forests, jungles, entire continents were exterminated. If humanity would not kneel, then Earth itself would be taken from them. But even then, even as the planet was stripped bare, even as the last remnants of civilization faced extinction, the resistance did not break. Because hidden beneath the charred remains of Earth, deep in an underground facility long thought abandoned, the final phase of humanity's war was beginning. A secret older than the invasion itself, a weapon the Empire had never seen, a force waiting to be unleashed, something buried in Earth's past, so that could change the fate of the entire galaxy. Beneath the smoldering ruins of Earth, in the deepest shadows where the Empire's gaze could not yet reach, the final war was about to change forever. The resistance had bought time, not victory, not even hope, but time, a temporary delay in the inevitable. And in that delay, humanity had one last chance not to fight, not to survive, but to win. The hidden weapon long before the first ships darkened the sky, long before the Empire's fleets even knew humanity existed, there had been whispers, buried legends of something ancient hidden beneath the surface of Earth, a power not of this world. It had been dismissed as myth, a relic of conspiracy theories, lost civilizations, and the fevered dreams of those who dared to believe Earth was not alone in the cosmos. But the resistance had no room for doubt. With their armies in tatters and their world being harvested piece by piece, they turned to the one thing the Empire had not expected: the past. Deep beneath Antarctica, in a facility buried under miles of ice, a discovery had been made decades earlier, classified beyond top secret, hidden from even the highest levels of government. Those who worked there had vanished, erased from records as if they had never existed, because what they found should never have existed. A structure, older than humanity itself. No one had built it. No one had left it. It had simply been there, waiting. Ta-ta. Resistance had only theories, but one thing was certain: the Empire had overlooked it. Their technology could scan the very fabric of reality, yet they had not detected this place, because it did not want to be found. The descent into the unknown. A final team was assembled: scientists, soldiers, engineers. The last great minds humanity had to offer, drawn from the scattered remnants of the resistance. With the Empire tightening its grip, with the last strongholds of civilization falling, there was no other choice. They had to go inside. As they descended through the icy tunnels, the air itself seemed to hum, charged with an energy that should not have existed. The deeper they went, the more reality itself seemed to bend, their equipment registering impossible fluctuations, their own perceptions shifting, as if time itself was warping around them. Then they reached it, the door. It was not made of stone or metal. It was not made of anything known to science. It was a void, an absence of matter, a gateway carved into the universe itself, and it was waiting to be opened. The team hesitated only for a moment. Then, with a single touch, the void split apart, unfurling like a wound in space, revealing the darkness beyond. And what they found changed everything. The truth about the Empire. Inside the structure, there were no controls, no machinery, no signs of life, only records not written, not stored in data or holograms. They were imprinted, woven into the very fabric of the space within, projected directly into the minds of those who entered. Memories, not human memories, not even alien ones. They were older. The Empire had ruled for 10,000 years. But what? The resistance discovered was far older than that, a history erased from the galaxy, a war that had happened before. That war the Empire did not want anyone to remember, because the Empire had not always been the conquerors. Once, long ago, they had been the conquered. Their own species had nearly been destroyed by something far greater, something that had vanished, before they could ever understand it. The Empire had not won its place in the stars. It had survived by exterminating anything that threatened it. Every civilization it encountered, every species that could one day challenge its dominion, had been wiped from existence. Not out of greed, not out of malice, but out of fear. The Empire had spent millennia ensuring that whatever had once nearly destroyed them could never rise again. And humanity had been a mistake. They were never meant to exist. Something had hidden Earth, shielded it, concealed it from the Empire's reach until now, and whatever had done so had left behind this place, this structure, buried beneath the ice, not as a relic, not as a ruin, but as a warning, the awakening. At the center of the chamber, something began to stir. It was not a machine. It was not alive. It was something in between, something the human mind could barely comprehend, a presence. It had no form, no voice, but it spoke nonetheless directly into their thoughts. You were not meant to awaken this. The team staggered back, their minds overwhelmed by the sheer weight of its existence. It was ancient, older than the Empire, older than the stars. It had been watching, waiting, buried in the silence of Earth's forgotten past. They are coming, it warned. They will not stop. They never stop. One of the scientists, trembling, managed to speak. What are you? For a moment, silence. Then the answer came, a remnant. The images that followed burned into their minds, visions of a war not fought with weapons, but with the very fabric of existence. A conflict between forces so vast, so powerful, that entire galaxies had been lost in the struggle, and at the center of it all by something greater than the Empire, something that had nearly erased them. It is not dead, the presence whispered, merely sleeping. The truth was horrifying. The Empire was not the final enemy. It was merely the last survivor of a much older war, and now, with the invasion of Earth, with the shield that had hidden humanity torn apart, whatever had once hunted the Empire had seen them again. You have awakened it. The ground beneath them shook. The air itself vibrated. Something vast and unfathomable was stirring beneath the ice. The team had come searching for a weapon, but what they had found was something far worse, something older than war itself. And now the true battle was about to begin. The moment the presence uttered its final words, reality itself shuddered. The underground structure, once silent for eons, began to awaken. Walls that had not moved in a million years rippled like liquid metal. Symbols carved into the darkened chamber flared to life, their meaning unknowable, yet carrying a weight that pressed down on the minds of the resistance team. And then, the ice began to crack. The unleashing above them on the surface, the sky had already begun to change. The Empire's warships, once stationary in their orbital positions, were now shifting, moving, retreating. The Empire did not retreat. It was an unbreakable force, a tide that swallowed planets whole, and yet its dreadnoughts and battle cruisers were repositioning, their massive hulls tilting as if responding to something unseen, something they had felt. The resistance team scrambled for their comms, desperate to reach the last remnants of humanity's forces. "This is Team 01. Antarctica site has been compromised. Something is happening. Something is—" The signal erupted into static, then silence, and then a voice. Not human, not machine, something in between. "You should not have come here." The presence in the chamber had not been speaking in warning. It had been speaking in grief, because the moment the team stepped inside, something else had felt it, something beyond the Empire, something so vast and unknowable that the Empire's own atrocities were nothing more than the flickering of a candle against the backdrop of a dying star. Something that had waited for this moment. And now, it was free. The sky burns in orbit. The first of the Empire's ships detonated in an eruption of lightless energy. Not an explosion, an unraveling. One moment, the battlecruiser Exarch was a monolithic structure, its dark hull bristling with planet-killing weaponry. The next, it had been reduced to nothing, as if it had never existed at all. The Empire had feared this moment for 10,000 years, and now they faced something even they could not fight. Something that did not conquer, something that did not invade, something that simply erased. Ships began to break formation. The Galactic Empire's perfect orderly fleet, an armada that had crushed entire civilizations with mathematical precision, was now in chaos. Vessels twisted in place, engines firing at random, desperate to flee. The war had changed. Earth was no longer a battlefield. It was a graveyard in the making. The Resistance watches in horror. The survivors hidden across the planet saw the sky turn into a cosmic nightmare. Streaks of black lightning forked across the atmosphere, lightning that left no illumination, only emptiness in its wake. The fabric of reality itself was distorting, bending in impossible directions, as if the universe itself was rejecting whatever had been unleashed. And then the voices began. Not in words, not in sound, but in memory. Every human mind, every remaining survivor, felt something pressing against their thoughts, images, fragments of something that could not be understood. A war that had ended before time itself had meaning. A war that had never truly ended. The Empire had not been the cause of the great purges across the galaxy. It had been the effect, because long ago something had nearly consumed them, something had fed on them, and they had spent 10 millennia running. From it, the enemy without a name, in the farthest reaches of the solar system, beyond the shattered remains of Earth's defense satellites, something moved, not a fleet, not a ship, a shadow, a presence that defied classification, an anomaly that did not exist according to any law of physics. The Resistance had fought for months against the unstoppable war machine of the Empire. They had learned, adapted, and resisted. But there was no resisting. The Empire's weapons had been designed to fight civilizations, to conquer planets, to crush opposition, to impose dominance over lesser species. They had never been meant to fight this, because there was no fighting it. There was only consumption, and it had noticed them. The Empire's last stand for the first. Time in its existence, the Empire fought not as a conqueror, but as prey. Their ships turned their weapons toward the encroaching abyss. firing world-breaking cannons that had reduced entire planets to dust. It did nothing. The void simply swallowed the energy, devoured the projectiles, erased the very fabric of the attack before it could even exist. Then the screaming began, not from the ships, not from the soldiers, from the minds of those aboard. Empires do not fear war, they fear the unknown. And for the first time in 10,000 years, the Galactic Empire felt fear. The choice on Earth's surface, the Resistance had two choices. Run, hide. There was nowhere left to go. This was no longer a battle between humanity and the Empire. This was something older, and yet a pulse. Deep beneath the Antarctic ruins, in the ancient chamber where it had all begun, the presence stirred once more. How you have one chance. The leader of the resistance team, barely standing, mind fractured from the visions, forced out a whisper. What? Chance? A pause. To end it. The structure was not just a tomb. It was not just a relic of a war long past. It was a weapon. Something that had been left behind by those who had fought before. Something that had been meant to be used only once. The resistance did not know what it would do. They did not know if it would even work. But as the sky itself collapsed above them, as reality twisted under the weight of the approaching void, they knew there was no choice. A hand reached forward, a single touch, and the ancient machine roared to life. The ancient machine had waited eons for this moment. Buried beneath Antarctica, hidden from the eyes of the Empire, it had remained dormant, not deactivated, but sealed, not forgotten, but feared. Now, with a single touch, it awoke, and the universe trembled. The rift opens, a pulse erupted from the core of the structure, not light, not energy, something beyond human comprehension. A wave of unmaking sweeping through the underground chamber, racing up through the layers of ice, shattering the frozen wasteland above. The sky itself fractured, not like glass, not like metal, but like the breaking of something far more fundamental. The Empire's warships, still in disarray, froze. Their engines flickered, their shields collapsed. The intricate, hyper-advanced technology that had enslaved entire civilizations failed all at once, because this was not a weapon forged from science. This was something older, something that preceded science itself. And the Empire had no defense against it. The unraveling from the void beyond the solar system, the thing that had stirred, the thing the Empire had feared above all else, reacted. It had no name, it had no form. It was an absence, a hunger, a force that had fed on civilizations long before the Empire had ever risen. It had come because it had been called, because the act of war itself, the invasion, the destruction, the very conflict, was like a beacon, an irresistible scent drifting across the endless dark. And now, as the pulse from the ancient machine spread outward, the thing hesitated for the first time in its existence. It recognized something, not the Empire, not humanity, but the signature of something it had encountered before, something it had once fought, something that had nearly destroyed it. The machine was not simply a weapon, it was a trap, the final confrontation. Pulse surged outward, tearing through the atmosphere, past Earth, into the cold depths of space. And the thing, the cosmic predator that had begun its descent upon the solar system, screamed, not in sound, not in language, but in reality itself. Soundless, infinite howl that rippled across existence, shaking the very foundations of time and space. The Empire's remaining ships, already crippled, were obliterated, not by force, but by sheer proximity to something they could not comprehend. The thing that had haunted the Empire for 10,000 years had come to claim them, and instead, it was caught, the fall of the Empire. The rift created by the machine did not destroy the creature. It did something worse. It sealed it away, the same way it had been sealed before. Reality bent, twisted, screamed as the cosmic force that had lurked in the darkness was dragged back, ripped away from existence, forced into a prison of its own making. And the Empire died, not with an explosion, not with surrender, but with the erasure of everything that had driven it. For millennia, The Empire had become what it was to escape this very fate. To run, to destroy any species that could awaken the old horrors. Now it had failed. The war was over. Not because humanity had won, but because the true war, the one that had been waged for eons, had simply reached its conclusion. And the Empire, for all its power, for all its brutality, had been nothing more than collateral damage. The aftermath Earth was silent. The sky, once filled with burning wreckage, now stood eerily still. No more enemy fleets, no more alien armies, no more war. The Resistance survivors stood among the ruins of their world, looking up at a cosmos that had, against all odds, spared them. But at what cost? The machine had saved them. But it had not been built for them. It had been built for something, older, something that had once waged a war against the void itself. And as the rift sealed shut, as the pulse faded into the ether of space, one last whisper drifted through the minds of those who remained. It is not destroyed. It is only waiting. The final question: humanity had survived, not because it was strong, not because it was meant to, but because in the end it had stumbled into a war far greater than itself and pressed a button left behind by something far wiser. Now, as the dust settled as Earth's survivors gazed into the endless void, only one question remained. What had truly saved them? And would it return? The end or the beginning? If you enjoyed this mind-bending journey, make sure to like, share and subscribe to XenoChronicles for more epic sci-fi tales. But now, tell me, if Earth had never been invaded, would we have ever learned the truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.